For further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by Al Ahram Weekly Managing Editor, Mr. Khaled Dawoud. Welcome to Q News, Mr. Dawoud. And what do you think motivates Araghchi's strong declaration about Iran not knowing surrender? Does this indicate that Iran won't show more flexibility in future negotiations?
Well, thanks, Hala, for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. I mean, I think Mr. Araghchi's statements are mainly aimed for domestic consumption. Again, the country has been subjected to a wide-scale war by the Israelis over 12 days. Many top leaders were killed, nuclear scientists, and of course, the American intervention in the war at a later stage, bombing the three main nuclear sites in Iran, topped with Fordow, where many of the advanced enrichment equipment is believed to be hidden. All these is definitely a very heavy strike for the Iranian regime, indicating a very big level of infiltration of the top ranks of the Iranian government. Again, when you manage in a matter of hours to target the chief of staff of the Iranian army, the head of the Revolutionary Guard, and all top military leaders and top nuclear scientists, this is definitely a regime that has a problem that it needs to deal with. So probably, again, part of the plan, I guess, by the Israeli Prime Minister and by the American President was that when the Iranian people would see that kind of infiltration and that kind of heavy blows, they would rebel against the regime. But that did not happen. But again, at the end of the day, the Iranian government would need to justify this kind of the situation to the Iranian people, even though the Iranians themselves, of course, they managed to inflict heavy damage on the Israeli side through the missiles they fired. They placed the entire Israeli population under curfew, basically hiding into the shelters to avoid those missiles, closing down the airport. But still, again, probably the Iranian regime, knowing its history and its ideology, cannot afford otherwise. They cannot afford to appear weak or surrendering to the American people, to the American government. And that's why we will continue to hear very hardline statements such as those made by Mr. Araghchi. But I mean, again, it might be a totally different situation when negotiations restart between Iranians and the American side, in case they actually start next week, as the American president indicated.
So what are the potential consequences of Trump's refusal to lift sanctions on Iran, especially in light of the ongoing tensions?
Well, I guess nothing is settled yet. I mean, there are many factors that will contribute to I mean, whether the Americans will continue to try to reach a deal, because as much as there are threats from the American president that he might not lift the sanctions, there are other reports that in order to convince Iran to sign a new agreement, they might give them some incentives to have a regional kind of production of nuclear material needed for civilian purposes, the lifting part of the freeze on the Iranian assets in the United States. So again, it's like, I think the dust needs to settle after this military campaign. And of course, the big part of the question, Hala, remains to be how much damage has been done to the Iranian nuclear program, because, I mean, all options are on the table. There are some analysis in the Western media and in Western circles that after this military strike, Iran might speed up its nuclear program in unknown sites, considering that they continue to have the knowledge and technology to produce the same amount of uranium that they need for the bomb, and that actually they might see this as a protection against any further American attack. So there are many possibilities open up. We need to see first if the Americans and the Iranians, Mr. Witkoff, the U.S. envoy for the Middle East, and the Iranian foreign minister, whether they're going to meet again, what's going to be the agenda. Because again, if we believe the American or Mr. Trump's version of events and the Israeli side, that they have totally destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. So, I mean, one question would be, what would they negotiate over if the Iranian program was totally destroyed? So probably it's not just about the nuclear issue, it's about the missiles, it's about Iranian support of militant organizations that are against Israel, such as Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis in Yemen. there are many other items on the agenda that probably the Americans and the Iranians would like to discuss besides the nuclear issue.
Yes, but regarding Iran's nuclear program, now, as you said, there is a lot of talking about Iran, whether actually the United States succeeded in destroying its nuclear facilities, or that only the sites were destroyed, but what was inside those sites was actually removed prior to the bombing. Still, Iran is seemingly freezing its cooperation with the IAEA. So will this further complicate efforts to reach an agreement with regards to Iran's nuclear program, whether it has nuclear facilities or not? And does this indicate that Iran might move towards potential weaponization?
Well, again, the only party that's going to be able to answer the question on the actual damage that was done to the Iranian nuclear facility are the Iranians themselves.
Again, and there isn't much information about it, unfortunately.
Of course, nobody, they don't have an interest in immediately, revealing how much damage has been done, although the Iranian Foreign Minister, Arakchi, has actually publicly stated that a lot of damage was done to the nuclear facilities. Nobody can minimize the effects of 12 the heavy bombs, the heaviest bombs on Earth, actually beneath nuclear weapons, those the GBU 57 bombs dropped by the B-2 airplanes. Each one is 14,000 kilograms. So, we dropped like 12 of those bombs on a nuclear site or on 3 nuclear sites. That's definitely going to cause a lot of heavy damage. But again...
but how much damage, we don't know. Damage was done, but we don't know how much damage.
Done, but what led to this kind of suspicion, Hala, let me say that, is Mr. Trump himself, because it was already hardly 2 hours after the attack, and without any true assessment of the damages, that Trump came out and said and used this particular word that's causing a lot of controversy in the United States about the Iranian program being obliterated. This word obliterated is what actually is causing and the reason behind all this controversy. And again, this remains to be seen. Of course, if Iran continues to take a hard line, refusing to allow the International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors in, this is going to lead to difficulties in the negotiations. But there is no question that damage is done. But at the same time, there are many unknowns. Like whether the Iranians have actually moved the enriched uranium to the one that's developed to 60%, or whether it remained to be there. How deep does that kind of equipment and that kind of enriched uranium was? Did the bombs cause massive damage to it? These are all issues that probably we might not get a full answer for, except the admission by the Iranian side that a lot of damage has been done. But if the damage, even if big damage has been done and the Iranians continue to have the knowledge and the technology, they can rebuild the infrastructure. They can rebuild new sites if they have that kind of intention. So it all depends on what happens.
Even though many of their scientists were killed? Nuclear scientists were killed in those attacks.
To be honest, Hala, when you assassinate 12 top or 15 top scientists, if it's a huge nuclear program involving hundreds
many scientists,
they probably have kind of conveyed that kind of knowledge. Of course, it's going to be influential, but at the end of the day, if you're talking about a huge program, killing 12 top, I think it's more important about the message, Hala, that if you manage to reach those kinds of top scientists, so you can do the same with another group of people later. It's, again, the message itself that we're infiltrated the country. We have Mossad agents inside Iran. They can kill, they can target certain sites. So, again, that's the message, besides the importance and significance of killing the nuclear scientists or even the top general. When you kill the chief of staff, there's always a deputy chief of staff. When you kill the head of the Air Force, there's the deputy head of the Air Force. But again, it's a sign that it's a message from Israel that we can get your top people, we can kill them all. And even if you notice, Hala, of course...
through intelligence information.
About Khamenei. Again, the Trump talking all the time that he knew where he was hiding and that he could have easily killed him. It's the message to the Iranian regime that you're not as strong as you think. We can get you, we can kill you. And that's probably also aimed at the Iranian people in an further attempt to make the Iranian people rebel against the regime, because from the Israeli perspective, and probably within certain circles in the United States, the end of the Iranian problem and threat will not happen except if the current regime is no longer in power.